Hello ladies and gentlemen, Panzer here and welcome back to Crossout! And today we're going to have a look at more PvE builds. And I've been working on this one for a little while as my sort of grinding vehicle for things like copper and so on and so forth. And let me just walk you through it. So what you can obviously see there is a 25mm cannon and a 20mm. Now you might have noticed I've been using fairly similar weapons for a lot of my builds recently, and that's mainly because I've been trying to show off what I'm also using currently as well. So they're not necessarily the most interesting builds. I know some of you have requested things like the Reaper build, heavy machine gun builds. Those are things that I definitely want to do. It's the main reason why I'm actually currently trying to level up with the Nomads at the moment to try and do that. And of course I want to take a look at Pyre launches and all that. So all of these things, they require grinding, which is a word that a lot of people don't like. And that's something that has to be done in a game such as this. So right now, this is the main vehicle I'm using for that. So this is what's getting me copper, mainly. I try not to take this into PvP, simply because these autocannons do not have a huge amount of durability. And once they're gone, and they're really hard to replace. The 20mm not so much anymore. These are pretty easy to craft, and you can replace them, or I have enough coins to go and buy them off the market as well. But these 25mm, which also come included in the mid-tier early access package, are a little bit harder to replace. They're much higher level and require a lot more materials, so they're not something I want to expend all that quickly. So really this is mainly for PvE. What I have been using for PvP instead is it's this one. No, it's not. It's a variation of this, using medium machine guns. That's essentially it. It's a very simple pickup with medium machine guns instead. That's my PvP build. So the PvE build that I'm using right now is this one. So I'm going to go and show you what it looks like in raids, just so you kind of have an idea. And that's also very good for XP grinding, because right now something like that is actually, if you can get into the normal level raids, not so much the hard raids yet, but if you can get into the normal raids even, these are actually pretty good for getting XP if you have the right setup for it. With PvP, it's a little bit hit and miss. Unless you have the right equipment, you're probably not going to do as well, I find, anyway. Of course, some people might disagree with me, but that's the way I feel about the game currently right now. So we're going to jump into some PvE now, and I'll show you how this thing performs. Alright, here we go. So, it's not the quickest vehicle off the line, but it does maneuver quite well, mainly because of these small tracks at the back here. That is something that I've deliberately done so that we can get these autocannons turning around, because as I've said many times before, and I'm sure you guys are well aware, autocannons do not turn that quickly, so you do want to help them along just a little bit. So, that's something we got to do. Alright, there's an enemy there. And just trying to keep the autocannons on target is proving to be tricky, but you can see just how much damage you can do to these bots. And normally I wouldn't go for something as heavy as this, but considering how many structure points it has, it really doesn't matter, because a lot of these, with the exception of the bots armed with cannons and a couple of them armed with augers, you're not going to take significant damage from any of them armed with machine guns and the like. So you're quite safe just having a decent pool of hit points. The only issue really being that you can have your wheels knocked off, which is why I have these tracks instead mounted on them. Alright, so we got someone coming up on the left there. Oh, they're down. So just trying to defend this pump jack at the moment. So I originally tested this. I originally tested this on the race missions, which it still did quite alright at. It's not the fastest thing around, so you do want to be a little bit careful with that. But it still performed fairly well. It was able to absorb damage on the way in, and once, you know, you reach a pickup objective, it really has no issue holding the line while picking that stuff up. So, fairly alright as far as builds go for that. There's really not a lot happening in this one. Just kind of waiting around, really. So, alright, we've defended one pump jack completely now. Just waiting for the next lot of enemies to come flooding in. It's only 5 of them so far. It's a little bit worrying. Where are they? Now, I'm not particularly worried about the enemies themselves, it's just that the main lot of XP, as you might be surprised for defense anyway, actually comes from killing these guys. So if you do want to net a significant amount of XP, you gotta be doing this. For race missions, you actually want to be scoring objectives as much as killing enemies, because that will net you the highest amount of XP. And of course, if you're getting materials, that is exactly what you want as well. So with something like this, I was netting about 1,000-ish XP per match, which is decent. I have heard of people getting more than that, but it is decent for what I'm doing anyway. So let's just blast away these guys. Over on this side. Of course, we're getting a lot of assists, mainly because we have some very aggressive teammates on our team here, so they seem to be quite content with doing that. So, we'll let them do that. No issues with that whatsoever. I'm just waiting for the next pump jack to appear. There it is. And let's move on. So at the moment, just waiting for the next wave to spawn in. They're probably going to be around that pump jack already. Such is the way of things. There it is. They're already being attacked. We do have a teammate that's already there. Oh, there's one going right across in front of us. Just push him away. That's one enemy down. I'm just trying to strip off as many parts off of them as well before, you know, we actually kill them. Especially those crushers with their melee weapons that do a lot of damage to the pump jacks. You really want to just immobilize them. So if you can, one of the best things you can do... Oh god, that's a big boss. One of the main things you can do is just try to knock out their means of mobility. So knocking out wheels, etc. That's something you can do. That really helps as well. There's another one down. And there's another one. So at the moment, really just chewing through them because we've got a team that's nice and coordinated and nice and grouped up right now. So that's always nice to see. As compared to race missions, in fact, even compared to a lot of the other sort of attacking mission, I can't remember the name of it. Look at this guy. He's borderline Leviathan at this stage. I'm just going to knock his track off. If I can. Well, he's down, and there's the last one up there. He just seems to be stuck on this hill at the moment. And there we go. And you can see we're level 2 with the nomads right now, so this is going to take some time. But hopefully once we get there, it'll all be worth it. Alright, so now you've seen what that sort of thing can do. I'm just going to give a quick build breakdown, and then we'll take it out one more time. And hopefully we'll see if we get a different map and see if things are a little bit more interesting. Now, as I've said before, the 25mm is a very, very heavy weapon. So this is in fact a very back-heavy vehicle. Thankfully, though, tracks don't tend to slide as much as wheels do. So it is actually very easy to control. As compared to if I was using a 4-wheel steering model before this. That was a little bit trickier, and you do tend to lose control a little bit if you're not careful. So this is a much more controllable vehicle. Just bear in mind that since it has 4 wheels and 2 tracks, it's not going to be pivoting at all. So yeah, you want to be careful of that. Now, this could viably work in PvP as well. I'm just going to remove this van roof here. I've put a fuel tank in there, and there's a hazardous generator as well. And the reason it has that, I can just show it. The reason it has that is mainly so that we can push the energy of this vehicle up to 12. And the reason we want to do that, just show you it. Okay, let me just rip everything off it for now. Okay, so you can see the generator right here and this fuel tank right here. They're nicely spaced out, but any major hit to the rear, for example, with a pyre launcher or a cannon, you're going to see the back end come completely off and that 25mm along with it. So, hoping nobody really does that, but then again, that's what tends to happen in PvP at the moment. Now, what's right here, cleverly disguised like a container wall, to the point where I'll have difficulty seeing it, is an improved radiator. Now, these big things give you a 60% overheat threshold, and that allows you to fire these autocannons for much longer than you would normally be able to. Of course, if I had a bigger generator, I would combine that with a weapon cooler, so that we can actually cool down these weapons a lot faster. Because, of course, the weapon cabin, while being very narrow and a good space saver, it doesn't have any particular traits along with it that would help with weapons, unlike the pickup cabin. So that's something that we've had to deal with. So, of course, try not to let your weapons overheat, but at least this gives you a significant amount of shots before you actually overheat. So that's pretty good. Now, let's go out for our second battle, and let's see what's what. Okay, here we go, and this is the bridge map. Now, normally this would be an issue, but since we have the tracks here, didn't really want to push him out of the way. Since we have the tracks here, we are actually able to go through the water just fine, without without any significant traction loss at all, which is very, very nice. So on this map, we do have a very nice advantage by having these on there. So that looks like the first wave of enemies down. Unfortunately, not the most visually interesting of PvE missions, but hopefully this gives you a good idea of what this sort of build is good for, really. Right, 2 enemies over there. This one's about to die. And now so is this one. I do have somebody with a cannon. You can hear that the shot just whizzed past us just now. Cannons not something I really like for PvE. That, despite how much damage they do, you don't really want to have anything that has limited ammo supply in these sorts of situations. And that's purely because, well, when all said and done, if you end up with a really bad team, or if you're not as accurate as you want to be, then you're kind of wasting shots, and when that happens, you're really going to be in a heap of trouble if you run out of ammo, so not a good idea to bring those in. For PvP, it's perfectly fine to have cannons or rockets or missiles of any sort with limited ammo, simply because matches are usually over before you run out of ammo. It's the simplest way of putting it. So, not a fan of that at all. But of course, you know, to each their own. Some people do prefer to bring those in anyway. If I do have one complaint about this particular build, it's that, well, it doesn't stop very easily. It weighs almost 8 tons. So, and we did just get shot at by our teammate there, because he probably had the visor up and wasn't looking directly in front of him. This is a bit unfortunate. Or maybe I backed into his shot, who knows. Either way, yeah, that's a waste you don't want to have happen. Right, there's one right over there. Of course, majority of the damage at the moment is being done by this 25mm on the back. The 20mm on its own does do a fair amount of damage, but as the much bigger 25 really does quite a lot more damage per shot. But of course, combining the two is of course the best situation. Unfortunately, I've yet to make a build that can fit 2 25s on it. That would be kind of interesting. But that hasn't happened yet, thankfully. It seems like we're breezing through this PvE raid at the moment. Looks like everyone's going over that way. I wonder if that means the next pump jack is going to pop up on the side. Chances are it probably is. There it is. Okay, so... as you can see, it's not a slow vehicle. It does get to a fair amount of speed once you give it time. But the sheer weight of the thing... it does take a little bit of time to stop, and then it takes a little bit of time to get going. So don't expect to be doing much in the way of hit and runs with this thing. It's definitely not something that's going to happen too easily for you. Alright, let's just eliminate all those that are as close to the place as possible. There's one there. Oh. Well, you're in a bit of trouble there, matey. He tried to ram me and ended up getting stuck on my side. Right, we're taking a fair amount of damage now from one of these. So we do want to get rid of them as quickly as possible. Especially those that are directly attacking the pump jack at the moment. Just going to move into a more defensible location. We have lost a lot of armor on our right side and a significant amount of structure points. Which is a lot more than we normally do. Alright, there's the boss over there. Just going to try and take some shots at him as he's poking out over there. Yeah, there's a couple of good hits in. Enough to secure ourselves an assist. Probably not the kill just yet. Alright, he's there off in the distance. So it's being very difficult to hit right now. And there we go. So as you can see there, it's still bringing in about 22 copper. They're still getting the coupons as well, which is nice. They sell for a decent amount, or if you go for the trophy containers if you really want to. Those are good as well. And of course this gives us 1,130 XP for that one, so that's not bad actually considering. But yes, I'm afraid that's all we have time for today, and that's just showing off a PvE build that maybe you guys want to try. Of course, autocannons and machine guns are my personal favourites for something like PvE, and in fact sometimes PvP as well. And those are just what I prefer to go with. You might have your own preferences as well. If you do, feel free to let me know down in the comments what you prefer to take for each particular thing. Do you prefer cannons for PvP? Are you a fan of the pyre launchers and hurricanes? Or are you a shotgun fan, for example? Let me know down in the comments below, and if you have anything you would like to see me build, don't forget to let me know down in the comments below. I will read them, and I do try to build them as much as I can. Unfortunately, things are just getting a little bit more difficult to make nowadays. So, if you do have a request, make sure to leave it down there. Always try to remind me as much as you can of what you've actually requested, so that I do know who requests what when I do get around to them. And of course, don't forget to leave a like if you've enjoyed the video, and subscribe if you're new to the channel. My name is Panther, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.